Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am new to this chamber, and today I am discouraged at what has taken place. We have seen across the nation that people have a lack of trust when it comes to elected officials. Amending a bill today that doesn't exist is in violation of our Joint Rule 42 and plays exactly into that trust issue. Our rules require transparency because our residents demand it. And I respectfully urge all of you to vote in favor of my colleague's motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman Bucco. Assemblyman Rigel.
Thank you, Speaker. Clearly, the debate of the bill is over. This is clearly about the rules. I believe Assemblyman Weber clearly identified that there is discrepancy here, that we are out of line and out of order with the rules. So I urge this House to keep the transparency that we did promise to the people of this state, promise to the people in this building that we were going to have, follow the rules, and I ask that you please pull 820 down and bring it back at a more appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Assemblyman Berzicelli.
Madam Speaker, thank you. I want to add to this discussion for clarification of whether or not this rule applies here. May I remind those in this body that this rule was put in place by this majority to provide transparency in what would otherwise be required, the process to select what Christmas tree items are allowed to grow within a budget. This doesn't apply today. That rule was intentionally put in place to address a different time and a different process in the budget process. To suggest that there's no transparency associated with this bill we're debating, it cleared a committee after considerable debate. There has been a public process associated with it. We are, in fact, in concert with the rules, and the rule being cited today is misapplied here at this particular time, in my opinion, and I urge the Chair, as you deliberate from these conversations you're hearing, that we move forward. The fact of the matter is there are probably some in this room today that would prefer not to be recorded in their stand where they're going to be, with seniors or against seniors, and how this moves forward. That part I understand. But we're here for a reason. We're here to cast our votes of whose voice we represent. And I suggest to you that what's taking place in the application of this rule is misplaced and is, in fact, out of order.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Assemblywoman Coyle.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. This is not misplaced or out of order. Under 42A, under budget resolutions, it very clearly states that the House and the State Treasurer that propose to add, delete, or otherwise change revenues, line items, or language provisions in the Governor's budget recommendations must be done with 14 days' notice. The rules are very clear. The rules were written by us, or certainly by predecessors, but especially you, Madam Speaker. I was privileged to serve with you for 2 years on Human Services. You were, and you, I believe, still are, a tremendous advocate of transparency. You sponsored bills to that light. You've shone the light on issues that were hidden from public view when we sat in that committee together. And I would urge you to follow the rules. At least if there's a legitimate question in your mind, pull the bill down. Let's work it out and resolve it at a proper time. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Assemblywoman Hanlon.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There is quite an irony before us this moment. We began this session hearing about why we need to be spending money that we don't have. And now we're focusing on whether or not we should vote on a bill to amend a budget that doesn't exist. So we're kind of going from the murky into the real darkness. And I suggest to everyone that want to go back to seniors. The seniors, among their many, many admirable qualities, and the reason we look up to them and count on their wisdom is that they have lived long enough to know what it means when rules break down and when people live in conditions of chaos where there is nothing to count on. There is nothing that endures beyond the daily ebb and flow of political theater and empty rhetoric. So, yes, we are truly at a defining moment today, my colleagues on both sides of the aisle. And I think it will say a great deal about this House if we decide to uphold the rules by which we have all agreed to live, or if we choose to abandon those rules in the interests of empty rhetoric.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Assemblyman Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, the Budget Committee Chairman correctly stated this bill supplements the Appropriation Act. And he said there have been many instances where supplements to the Appropriation Act have been passed. That's correct, too. But I question whether he can ever cite one instance where a supplement to an Appropriation Act that has not been introduced has been enacted, which is the case here.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Assemblyman Wolf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm sure many of my colleagues here do not hear my voice very often spoken on legal issues, since I'm not an attorney. However, I do respect the traditions and the honor of serving as a legislator in this House. We will pass on. Other men and women will take our place. We have over a 230-year history of being representative democracy. In 2002, the Republican majority disappeared and the Democratic majority took over in the Senate and the Assembly. I sat over there in that back row. Assemblyman Caraballo redid most of the rules of the House, and I spoke against many of the changes that he was proposing. Obviously, I was not shouted down. I was voted down. And we've had to live with these rules for the last 8 years. I think it's incumbent upon all of us as legislators, representative of our communities, to live by the rules. These are the rules that we adopted, whether we like them or not. We swore an oath to uphold the Constitution and the rules of the General Assembly. These are the rules, and I certainly would hope that all of you would respect the body that we serve and the people we represent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Assemblyman Wolf. Are there any other members on the motion put forth by Assemblyman Weber? Appeal. Okay, being none, I would ask, Assemblyman Malone, I'm so sorry.
I want to get up on this issue, but I have the utmost respect for you as our leader. Every one of us voted for you. When you stand at that podium, you do not stand there as a Democrat or a Republican. You stand as our leader. And it is, in my humble opinion, your obligation and your solemn responsibility to enforce the rules of this House. And I would urge you and ask you, and I just have the deepest respect for you, to look at the rules, take a few minutes before we decide on this. Because this, as other people have said, will truly be a defining moment in your speakership and the direction of this House if we just cavalierly throw away the rules of this House for political expediency. You happen to be our speaker, not the Democratic speaker, not the Republican speaker. You're the speaker of this House. I would urge you to take a few minutes in quiet solitude before you make a decision on whether these rules just get thrown away. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Assemblyman Malone. And I see that Assemblyman Bucco and Chisano have requested to